Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the life and career of Albert Hadi.
Mm.
And we're looking at a journey that is, I mean, it's so massive, it almost feels unbelievable. We're talking about an individual who started out as a manual laborer and ended up briefing U.S. presidents.
It's an extraordinary file, really. When you dig into the sources, the sheer scope of his experience is just, it's unlike almost anyone else who reaches that level of government.
Right.
He didn't just switch careers. He crossed these enormous cultural, linguistic, and professional chasms.
So I think our mission today, for you, the listener,
Mhm.
is to try and answer a core question. What was the driving force behind that? I mean, how does a person go from being a struggling immigrant carpenter, learning English one mistake at a time,
Yeah.
to becoming a key voice helping to shape global foreign policy?
Well, what stands out right away in the biography is the total absence of any kind of inherited advantage.
No connections, no privilege.
None. The sources really emphasize that his rise was built on survival, discipline, and this just profound resilience. His foundation here was physical labor, literally shaping wood while he was also trying to master the political and cultural language of a brand new country.
And that immediately sets the stakes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have this incredible juxtaposition. The person whose reality was the carpenter's bench,
Mm-hmm.
eventually holding the attention of presidents in the briefing room.
Yeah.
That's a distance that very few people could ever travel.
We really need to pause on the magnitude of that. It's not just about learning a new job, it's about navigating what the sources call the distance between worlds.
And what does that imply?
Well, think about it. His life literally stretches from a carpenter's bench to these rooms where global decisions are being made. That gap, that required something more than just hard work. It required what they call unshakable resilience.
And when the sources talk about resilience here, it's more than just, sticking with a tough job.
Oh, absolutely.
It seems to imply this enormous personal toll of bridging that gap. He went from someone who, as you said, struggled with English, culture, and belonging,
Right.
to someone whose insights were relied on by the most powerful people on the planet.
Precisely. To get a seat at that table, he had to prove his competency, his integrity, his cultural fluency, not just once, but over and over again in completely different fields. It's a transition that would demand just profound personal fortitude to cross that boundary from being the outsider to the essential insider.
He was an Arabic press officer in some of the world's most volatile regions. It sounds very official, but what did that actually look like on the ground, especially in a war zone?
That role was the definition of operating at the intersection of theory and chaos. He wasn't just translating words from a script.
Now,
He was translating intent and culture and context, all in real time. I mean, imagine a press conference right after a major military strike. Washington sends over these talking points.
which are probably legally precise, but maybe culturally.
Tone deaf, exactly. They're often culturally tone deaf.
So his job was to take those policy goals and turn them into something that would actually land with the local press and public without, actively alienating them.
That was his core duty. Bridging that gap between assumption and reality, he was the vital link, making sure the U.S. government's message was understood as intended, not as an insult or a threat, and often under just extreme pressure.
Yeah.
The sources are really clear on this. He carried intention, emotion, and reality into every briefing. He had to make the official U.S. line sound human.
Which brings us to the real nuggets for our listener, the list of senior officials who relied on him.
The list is just astonishing, and it's so bipartisan. He briefed and held press conferences with President George W. Bush, President Joe Biden, Secretary Hillary Clinton, CIA Director David Petraeus. I mean, the list goes on.
That's incredible. You're talking about advising two administrations from completely different parties, plus the top figures in diplomacy and intelligence.
Yeah.
But when you're briefing a president, what's the specific thing that only Albert Hadi can bring to the table? It's not just a summary of a report, right?
No, it was the texture. It was the crucial nuance of how a policy decision would land on the street, or why a certain narrative was gaining traction.
He led the counterattack as editor-in-chief of a platform called A Word of Truth. Tell us about that. What was it?
A Word of Truth wasn't some little newsletter. It was a sophisticated, multilingual online platform, a digital content engine. And its strategy was surgical. It wasn't just refuting their claims.
It was proactive.
Exactly. It was about exposing the hypocrisy, the brutal reality of the violence. It was global, targeting the exact vulnerable populations that ISIS was trying to recruit with its glamorous videos.
It's so clear his public life was defined by these massive external conflicts, war, terrorism, diplomacy. But if we dig a bit deeper into the sources, it seems like all of this was fueled by a really powerful internal motive. Let's talk about that underlying theme of belonging.
This is what connects it all, I think. This connects the migrant carpenter to the high-level policy expert.
Right.
The sources note his life isn't just shaped by conflict, but by this profound longing for acceptance in a country not his by birth, culture, language, or history. He spent his whole life bridging, well, not just nations, but himself and the world he was now living in.
That internal story of seeking belonging. How did that make him more effective? Or did it ever make him vulnerable? Being seen as compromised by one side or the other.
That's a crucial tension, and it seems he dealt with it through just radical competence and transparency. He understood that belonging isn't just given to you in a new country, it has to be earned.
Fought for, even.
Fought for. When you're seen as a stranger, you spend years proving your worth, proving your loyalty through who you are, not through what others assume.
You're constantly auditioning, proving yourself in every single briefing, every press conference.
It sounds exhausting, but it seems to have given him this incredible clarity of purpose. His professional mission was just so deeply informed by that personal struggle. He knew what it felt like to be marginalized, to be misunderstood.
And that's what defined his mission.